Husband constantly tells me that I ruined his life and embarrassed me at a family dinner, saying that no one would want me, so I ruined his life for real. Plus, all updates. I try to do my best to provide for my husband and 2 kids, as well as my father-in-law, and would like to think I'm doing a decent job. Over the years, I worked to improve our family's living situation. Not only did I complete another bachelor's and recently a master's in a STEM-related degree, I, at the same time, worked 2 full-time jobs and put my husband through school as well. He completed a degree where he could make good money in a healthcare field that always has jobs available. But with the birth of our 2 kids, he has since given up on his career to be a stay-at-home parent for the time being. At first, it was a struggle while I was finishing up my master's. Once I completed it, after our youngest turned 3, my career took a jump up, and we are now able to afford our single-income household in a more feasible manner. We're far from rich, but we do okay for a single-income family of 4. The past year, life was overwhelming for my husband. So even though I now work 75% from home, I budgeted to hire a daytime nanny to help him around the house with one child while the other is in school. My day starts every day around 5:36 a.m. I get the house ready for the day before the nanny comes at 8 a.m. I get our oldest up and ready for school, breakfast made, plan out my day, bring our oldest to drop off, and be home in time to let the nanny in. My most recent task at work has me grounded for the next 2 months, meaning I am now 100% WFH, work from home. While this is nice, I am busy in meetings all day as my role manages teams on a global scale as I oversee projects for my industry. For the past 1.5 months, I realized my husband, as much as he says his life is stressful at home, starts his day at 10 a.m. I asked my father-in-law and the nanny if this was always the case after a week or so of WFH, and they both responded more or less, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. My husband literally wakes up, cooks, and then scrolls through his phone or shops from home, which brings me to my gripe. I'm glad I am able to provide him with that sort of life since we both grew up lacking in means. I manage the house's finances. He claims he was too busy to do so. I pay all the household bills. I pay my own personal bills. I pay his bills. Upkeep of our house appliances, car, pets, and I also help pay for my father-in-law's medical bills and car note. But apparently, my life is on easy street compared to his. I can't decompress to him because it seems like he always feels the need to one-up me. I had a bad day, but he had it worse because I'm lucky I got to go away and work. My feet hurt from walking all day during work travel, which is nothing compared to his standing and cooking with a child clinging to him. For the past 2 or so years, I've been told I ruined his life, his opportunities. But when I reminded him of what he says, he denies and dodges accountability. And, honestly, with the help of his father and a nanny Monday to Friday for one toddler while another child is at school, can you honestly tell me he's having the typical stay-at-home parent experience? Because neither my friends nor colleagues who are single parents can say he is. Update: I showed my husband my post the following weekend, and he read it, including all the comments. Long story short, argument. He left our house to stay with his brother, and I've been a single parent since. It's sad to say, aside from the good nights to our kids, it's all pretty much the same routine. He came back like nothing happened. He made it about him. Nothing's changed. After a little over a week of being away, I guess he cooled off, so he just decided that it would be fine if he walked in the door with his bags as if he just came back from Target. He came into my office while I was working and angrily stared at me while I sat on a conference call meeting with my team, and I couldn't just jump off as this is a busy time of the quarter for us. I guess that didn't sit well with him because once I took off my headset and closed my laptop, he started yelling at me about how much I really don't care about him and his well-being overall. At that moment, I couldn't do anything more than look at him and just shake my head. Father-in-law came in after hearing my husband yelling and pulled him away, telling him not to bother me, while our nanny kept our youngest away from it on the other side of the house. That night after the kids were put to bed, I sat in my office by myself with a drink that I've been doing for the past nights, and my husband came in. We talked, we argued. We cried. We drank. One thing led to another, and we were in bed. I wish I could say that was our making up, but the next sobering morning as we lay there, he went on about how hard it was for him the time he was gone. It was about his struggle staying at his family house in his old room with his mom and sister's family. How lucky I am to be able to stay here and do this and that and buy this or do that and not stress as much as they did. My mind and heart broke that morning. I've been spiraling down since then, and this last week, I made another attempt to reconcile and talk things out. But I was met with a shouting match while trying to express my current stress and anxieties with life and work in general. Husband, well, do you know how hard this is all for me? You're supposed to help me be happy. So when it comes to my happiness, stress, needs, and overall well-being, have Katie get over it, right? Husband, we all have our own problems. You need to figure it out and get over them. Don't know who the woman I am at home with is, but that wasn't the woman I married and vowed to spend my life with and raise our kids together. Since that conversation, I've been noticeably distant with him. Update 2. After a hard push from our family via an intervention, my husband and I finally attempted to go to marriage counseling. I'm sure many of you can guess how well that went. Blame, tears, regrets, gaslighting. With a side of I am the reason for his life being ruined and horrible. Again, just this time in front of a licensed therapist instead of Reddit or mom groups. In the end, everything the therapist suggested and noted went over his head and ignored as it was against the grain of his status quo. One thing I guess worth saying was the therapist asked if he could recall when he last truly felt happy. His response was about 12 or so years ago. Please note, 12 years ago, he was still in his 20s, childless, living with his ex. The following weekend was Father's Day, and this year is expected not to be that big of a celebration as it is for many moms out there. Our family got together to celebrate with a barbecue and just simple family time, and my husband treated it like any other day. He slept in, got up, cooked, looked at his phone, shopped, attempted to play with the kids, looked at his phone. During said family barbecue, my husband said he felt ill, so he sat around most of the day while the rest of the family as a whole made the experience enjoyable. I was conversing with my brother-in-law about both of our kids' school Father's Day activities, and I assume my husband overheard when I mentioned that it was a little sad to see some kids sit alone without their mothers during the breakfast with mom event I attended. He blurted out with a laugh loud enough for the whole room to hear. It's not like you do anything anyway. I could have gone instead. At that moment, I was red and at a loss for words, sitting there processing what he said in my head while the dining room went dead silent. My mother-in-law broke the awkwardness and in response said, well, maybe if you feel that way, one of you should divorce the other. My husband looked at my mother-in-law, confused that she would respond with that, and laughed mockingly in my direction, and with his hand pointing at me said, as if another man would want a woman like her. Just look at you. While the room sat silent, I was angry, heartbroken, confused, and embarrassed all at the same time. In a womanly manner, I just nodded my head in silence, stood up, and picked up my keys and got in my truck and drove off to get a drink while trying to ignore the cries of the rest of the family and our kids telling me to stay. I don't know what was said or done while I was out of the house the rest of Sunday because I couldn't bring myself to check our house cameras. But when I returned early Monday morning, the house had a completely different feel. As usual, I woke up around 6, got the house and our oldest ready for school drop-off. Checked emails, checked messages, nothing out of the ordinary. As I was getting dressed to leave, my husband lay in our bed snoring lightly. All I could do was look at him and think of what we had. And now lost, I've decided. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I texted my lawyer that morning to move forward with serving him. Fast forward to last week, he was served at our home. He had, I guess, what you could call a mini meltdown and came into my office screaming, how could I do this to him? His mother intervened, and that was met with me supposedly turning his whole family against him. But I digress. I probably would have felt bad if it wasn't immediately followed by the rest of his week acting as if he's been this active and attentive husband and father the past few years. Sure. People can say he's making an attempt, but he's made many attempts, and historically, we fall back to where we've been. For those curious, I am aiming for full or at least majority custody of our kids. My mother-in-law has given me the courage and strength that helps supplement my own mother's support throughout this. Basically, she is what I hope the kind of mother/wife my husband would have been to our kids and me. Out of respect for my mother-in-law as well as per my own mother's shared wishes, I will continue to help oversee and contribute financial help if needed during her treatments. All in all, I'm prepared to go to war if needed, but I just want a clean no-fuss divorce. My husband has no alimony coming.